Introducing Strategies to Tackle Document-Based Questions, a Learning Lab with Carrie Kaufman. The lab will take place on Monday, May 14th, and offer two options for observation. The first option will be from 12:31 to 1:18, while the second option will be from 1:22 to 2:09. The debrief will take place from 3:15 to 4:15. All of these components will take place in Carrie's room, room C221 at the high school. The lab will focus on one main question. How do we establish the process for answering a document-based question at the high school?
Hi, I'm Carrie, if you don't know me. I'm very excited that all of you will be coming to see my learning lab on May 14th. So I want to give you a little background about the class and the activity, and then give you the look-fors and sort of our big focus question for the class. So these two classes, 5th and 6th hour, are made up of sophomores. Those of you that are coming to the first session, that'll be my 5th hour class, there are 30 kids in that class. So every desk is full, and it will be loud, but it's good. 6th hour has 22 kids, so a lot fewer, but they are much broader in ability. I have some fairly low level kids, some very high achieving, and then kind of everything in between. One big challenge in that class is I have a student from Crossroads whose ability level is substantially lower than the rest of the class. So I'm still kind of working what he'll be able to do, but I think he can definitely work in and it will be okay. So just be prepared for sophomore level energy, a lot of kids, and probably some weird jokes because that's who they are. The activity that they will be doing is sort of day one of the DBQ. And so a DBQ is a document-based question, if you're unfamiliar. And so essentially it's an essay question, and you get to use primary documents to help you answer it. And they've done this stuff before without knowing it. Like they've done like a mini Q scenario. They've used primary documents to help them answer questions before. But this will be an actual structured practice in the DBQ. So we're taking an AP European History DBQ question and DBQ documents, and we're tackling it, like we'll do it over 2 days, maybe a little bit extra, depending on how days 1 and 2 go, but 2 days should be doable, and we're going to make this a really manageable task so they understand essentially how to attack the question, and how to undergo the process of writing a DBQ, because that's the big focus area for today for the learning lab. How do we establish the process for answering a documents-based question at the high school? Because they get exposure to this, again, it's not an uncommon idea in history classes that you use primary documents to answer questions, but this is going about it in a very structured way, with documents that are intended to be able to be used by the students in a variety of manners that they can use to support an argument that they make. Yeah, so they, for their final project, they are not going to be writing the whole essay. They're going to do the intro, the setup for the DBQ, and then all they're going to do is write an intro paragraph with a strong thesis statement, and then they're going to create an essay outline. Next year in American history, they are going to write a couple full essays. They will do the document breakdown in class with varying, like the supports will come off later in American history, but right now for the sophomores, our focus is really understanding how to attack the question and how to attack the documents in a way that will be helpful when it comes to writing an essay. So the documents-based question that they're looking at is going to be about European imperialism in Africa. So it asks them to analyze European motivations for and attitudes towards the colonization of Africa, and it gives them a time range. And so going into this activity, they will have spent a week talking about imperialism, kind of in the big scale, and then focusing in on the case study of South Africa. So they'll have some in-class examples to draw on, but then this question will be more broad, and it's going to pull in a couple different examples that we haven't talked a lot about in class, but that's the great thing about a DBQ is you can have kind of a limited understanding outside and then be able to use the documents to help you create a fuller picture of what for your answer, I guess. So process that they will go through, I have like a handout sheet that I will give them that has the question on it, or the prompt. It's not actually a question, but it is a prompt, and they will get 2 minutes to do a quick breakdown of the question. And what I want them to see is that this is a complex question with multiple parts. There's pieces to it. It's not just one question, like, was imperialism good or bad? They have to really dive into why did the Europeans go and colonize Africa, and then in a diverse array, so it's like multiple motivations for, and then analyze the diversity in the European perspective about imperialism itself. Some people are going to say it's the best thing. Some people are going to say it's the worst thing. And they have to be able to kind of explain why, right? Why would somebody be pro-imperialism? Why would somebody be anti-imperialism? As well as saying, like, these are the reasons that people are pro and anti. And that might have been redundant. So they do have to do the question breakdown. They'll do that just kind of quick with a partner. Then we'll go to it as a whole class to make sure that they're getting all pieces of the question. Because it's a complex question. I want to make sure that they're understanding everything they would have to address. Because this is one of the first times they're seeing a question that has so many levels to it. Next, I'm going to give them probably 5 to 7 minutes to brainstorm. And I'm going to ask them, like, so if you were writing this essay now without any documents, what would you write down? What's information that you already know that you could use to answer this question? Because they've done a lot of this. We've spent time talking about viewpoints on imperialism, justifications for it. We'll have the case study of South Africa that they can go into and be like, well, this is why I already know. This is why Europeans were taking colonies in Africa. This is why, this is how they felt about it. These were their motivations for colonizing the continent. And after they do that, so it's, again, and it's that time where they can put down anything that might be relevant. I just want them to see everything that they already know, to understand, like, that they are very capable of answering this question already, and the documents are just there to help. So they will get the document packet. This document packet has 12 documents in it, which are a lot, and they are all old, for lack of a better word, because they're primary documents about imperialism. So kind of 1800s writing and speak, so they're difficult to work through. Like, even some of the top students are going to be challenged when it comes to attacking these different documents. We're going to look at one as a class, so they can kind of see, I'm going to model some of that behavior. Like, this is what, when you get the documents yourself, like, this is the first place to start, this is how you should go about it. And then I'm going to kind of group them off. They're going to be assigned a couple of the documents and have to explain them, right? They're going to have to analyze those documents and try to understand where does that document come from? What information can you get from that document? How could it help you write an essay? So we kind of divide and conquer, and then as a class we'll go through. And so those groups are kind of like the expert on their document, and they will share that information out as a class. And I think that's kind of the extent of what you guys will see in the Learning Lab. It will probably get to the point where I can say, okay, now for tomorrow, start thinking about a thesis statement. If you were going to craft an argument around this prompt, what would that argument be? Because then in class they're going to have time to work their thesis, work their intro paragraph, and craft an outline. But that's day 2. You guys are seeing day 1. So I've said the focus area for the Learning Lab is like, how do we establish the process for answering a document-based question at the high school? And then some of the things to look for: level of student engagement. It's going to be varied. I can tell you that already. Then I want you to look for how students interact with the document. When they get to the point where they're analyzing the documents, how are they going about it? Did they learn from the model? Are they pulling on stuff that they have learned from their English classes? Because I know they've done stuff there where they have to analyze something and pull information out. So watch how they approach it. And then I want you to think about, too, the impact of the question breakdown. How does that impact the activity, the impact of the brainstorming, impact of the small group analysis, and then the large group piece? How do all of these things impact the learning of the students and the overall process of doing a DBQ? So it will be fun to have you guys here. I'm going to warn them that you will be here because, again, they're sophomores and they are distractible and they will be very confused why there's a lot of adults in here. But it should be a good time. I'm excited to have you. Thanks.
The following norms have been established for the lab. Maintain a positive attitude and respect for the lab host. Avoid being a distraction in the classroom. Do not talk to students or other teachers during the observation. Please save any conversation so all can hear and participate. Stay close to the action so you can see and hear what the students are doing as learners. And record detailed notes that are aligned with the observation to use during the debriefing session. Prior to the Learning Lab, the facilitator will provide you with the Learning Lab protocol, which outlines the structure of the lab. Included in the protocol is a note-taking tool. This includes the focus questions and the look-fors. You are encouraged during the observation to use this area to take your notes. There is also space included for notes that may be taken during the debrief session. Learning labs are a way of getting better together and creating a culture of collaborative learning. We are excited that you are joining us for this Learning Lab. Let's learn.
Q. Right. Does anybody know what does DBQ stand for? I know these are going to be database. It's not data.
Debrief.
It is something based question. Document based question. Yes. Okay. And as a history person, these are like my favorite thing. I love them because you have to know very little about your subject, even though you guys are going to be well versed in what you're already writing about. Because you get documents, you get evidence to use to answer a question. So a DBQ is essentially a big old essay question or a prompt, right? And you get to use primary documents to help you answer it. Think back, remember we did that one-child policy thing a couple weeks ago? Yes, remember I was saying like, so if the question was, China's one-child policy, was it a good or bad idea? You all had opinions. Like you could have made it saying, like, yeah, I know like China's one policy, good idea for these reasons. But then you had those documents that would help you support it. It's ringing bells. Welcome back to us. You're going to do the same thing. That's what this activity is. It's an essay question where you use primary documents to help you answer it. Yeah. Okay. Yes, the one that you're going to be looking at, we're going to do it kind of over today, tomorrow. Your task will be different. You're not writing a whole essay. I'll just tell you that right off the bat, so don't worry. It's going to be fine. Today we'll be getting into the question, the breakdown, the brainstorming, and document analysis. It's going to take a couple days to do this, but... All right, so this is a piece, please, we're going to take this in stages. Right? We're going slow this first time through. This is the only one you will do this year. Next year in American history, you're going to have multiple DBQs that you will do. Right? We start sort of building you into the structure of it. By the end of the year, you will be writing a DBQ independently. Because we're going to have the blocks next year, too. You're going to get the documents, analyze them, 45 minutes, and then sit down in the next 45 minutes and write your whole essay. It's going to be amazing. So, but you're not there yet, right? So don't stress about it yet. We're starting slow. It's a skill that you learn, and that's the point what we're doing today. You are learning a skill. So this is just an essay question. You have your prompt at the top of your sheet. Does everybody see it? It is bolded. Okay. It says, analyze the attitudes toward and evaluate the motivations behind the European acquisition of African colonies in the period 1880 to 1914. So again, it's think French Revolution. It was a really big, there's a lot of parts to that question. So right now, take 2 minutes, and you can, if you want to with the buddy near you, that's great. Take 2 minutes and break down that question. What are the key components of this question? Talk to somebody if you need to. It's a prompt, not a I'm really confident in this one.
You're taking
motivations. So what?
What is acquisition?
Ooh, great. Anybody know what does acquisition mean? Occupy, to take, right? But yeah, so if you think like that's an amazing question. Way to go. Yeah, so they acquired colonies, they went and took, right? You guys did that whole Berlin Conference activity where you wanted to take pieces of the continent. when they acquired, why did they acquire them? Good question.
That's messed up.
If you need to rephrase to make it make sense, do that. You don't have to use. This question is not asking about people of Africa. It's asking about now the European. Yeah. All right. What are the key components of this prompt? This is the question you're trying to answer. You would, and you're not writing an essay, but if you were writing an essay, this is the thing that you're trying to answer. What are the parts of this question that are most important? Again, prompt, not question.
It's sort of asking like why did Europeans want to take over the African colonies?
Yes. Capitalize, right? So that's one. That's a crucial part. Why did Europeans want African colonies? That's the piece. It says evaluate the motivations behind. Why did they take? Yes.
How did people feel about it?
Ooh, okay, wait. Say that again.
How did people feel?
Which people are we caring about in this prompt? It's not the actor. Which European? Yes, right. No, and that is the thing that happens super often with this question. This question is asking about European attitudes, not the people of the continent of Africa. You can make some good guesses. This is asking about Europeans themselves. So why do they want colonies? And then the attitudes towards. Some people you're going to encounter some of these documents as people that were against imperialism. And this is a bad idea. This is a bad practice. Okay. So those are the key pieces. Once you analyze the attitudes towards and evaluate the motivations behind European acquisition of African colonies, it gives you that year span, and that's the time period we've been working with, right? Just before the Berlin Conference, kind of in that early division of the continent. Right? Let's see. How did Europeans feel about taking African colonies? Why did they want them in the first place? Does the question make sense? Especially when you phrase it as a question. Okay, the next part, like that half of the sheet is blank there for you. This is the brainstorming piece. And this part is essential to that writing process because you all already have a lot of knowledge about why Europeans took colonies, right?
Yes.
This is the most quite prevent. Okay. So I want you to take, we're going to give you 5 to 7 minutes and definitely work with somebody here, right? This is going to be helpful. Come up with, write down everything you guys can think of right now. So what do I know? Why did Europeans take colonies? How, what motivated them to do so? As many things you come up with, there are no bad ideas here. Try to fill these 5 minutes.
Wait, people be counting natural resources?
No.
People are like naturally
You just said, like, my brother's just gonna put, like, I have this thing, they can't have this thing.
Rick Logan's paper Plus smiley face. It says thanks for watching.
So they could get like more resources out of it. And they can make footwear.
Where you were. Yeah. You guys want one more minute, or have your brainstormed while they're going to storm?
I just say good idea because they just.
I think we're good.
Here's a dumb joke. Good brainstorming. Okay. I was trying. All right. So what are some of the things that you came up with? What are the reasons that Europeans took colonies? What do you already know about this topic? Yeah.
What?
Land. Yeah.
Resources.
Yeah.
National pride.
Yeah. Yep.
They wanted to do it before others could.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seaports.
All right. That was with South Africa. Yes.
Basically just I thought if we can, so why not?
Right, no, absolutely. There's that superiority component. Like, why would I not? We are the fittest for survival, so why not go colonize? What was that called?
White man's burden.
No.
Social Darwinism. There you go. Yeah, white man's burden. I'm going to put that up there. It's a good one. Woo! For being saying
God, golden glory.
farmland.
Oh, dude, we did.
Right, we talked like South Africa weirdly has the same like kind of climate and land growing capabilities as yes, right? The human, yeah, right? The human resource. Again, not pleasant, not charming, but a reality of when they were evaluating, like, what areas should I take? Which areas do I want? Human resource was from it. Yeah. Okay, so you guys already know a lot. I know there's more on your sheets that you're just too shy to say right now. So these are excellent, right? And so if you were going to write this essay right now, and you're not writing an essay, but if you were, you could give it a pretty good answer already, right?
Yes.
Yeah, look at all this. And so some of these, if you were saying like, okay, well, I'm going to write like a multiple paragraph essay, some of these ideas already group together a little bit more naturally. Right? The resources piece, you can tie it with farmland, economic opportunity, maybe trade. So those would be some ideas that you would group together. You say Europeans, they colonized, they wanted access to new resources. Those resources could be, a natural resource, you guys have. Yeah, the people resource. Could be access to land, farmland. But give you that economic opportunity, right? It afforded them new resources, new markets. You said maybe another piece, another reason that people colonized was because of superiority. It ties with this idea of the white man's burden, help natives, just the color for this. That's fine. Right, so you have a sense, right? You understand a little bit already why Europeans colonized. Now comes the part that makes this the document-based question. The documents. Okay. Turns out this question is
Important facts.
We can do like every three, so each have four. So like,
I'll do the first three. The first two.
no, I'm saying like we could. That works.
Okay. All right, so take just a second and flip through the document packet. Right, so the front page gives you all kinds of information about writing a DBQ. But you've got 12 primary documents and then 2 maps in here. So 14 pieces overall. Just to get a sense. Just to get a sense of what they look like. Some of these primary documents are long. Some of them are short. All of them could help you write this essay. And so it's part because this is a learning piece, it's the first time you've done anything like this, we're going to kind of divide and conquer the document analysis part. We'll get one together, and then you guys can get into kind of groups and we'll split and divide. Some of these documents are difficult. Right? You're going to run into words you don't know. You're going to run into phrasing that feels bizarre, and it is because it was written 200 years ago. But that's okay. So you're going to struggle a little bit, but it's all going to be fine. No, somebody give me a number between 1 and 12, please. 4 is what I heard. Let me start there. 4 is a good one. Okay. Everyone have to document number 4.
She should have been 5.
Oh, this is a tough one. This is a good one to pick. This is a good one to look at together. Way to go. It's a good one to get out of the way together.
Oh, that's why I about the science.
So these document packets, they are yours. You can write on them, you can highlight them, you can mark them up. So in a moment, right, if you flip over the sheet that you have already, on the back it's got a nice grid for all your documents. Because you're going to analyze them. So you and the group will be responsible for probably 2 documents. And other people we're going to share the burden of analysis. We're starting with number 4 together. Okay, so if you think about this question, right, you say, why did Europeans want colonies? How did they feel about the whole process of imperialism? These documents fit that idea. So this is our first one. I don't want to looking at together. With these documents, we're going to give AP people put them together. They start with source information. You guys have seen primary documents before, correct?
Yeah.
I know you did like a week ago. So yes. So this here tells us, right, the source comes from Joseph Chamberlain. He is a British industrialist. He's a politician and a reformer. Right? This came from a speech in 1888. So a little bit after Berlin Conference. Okay. Great to start with the source and kind of work into the content of the piece. We're going to read it kind of together. I'll read it out loud. You guys follow along in your thing. Then we'll divide it into pieces. So Joseph Chamberlain says, "We have suffered much in this country from depression of trade. We know how many of our fellows at this moment unemployed. Is there any man in his senses who believes that the crowded population of these islands," referring to the British islands, that little bracket means, "could exist for a single day if we were cut adrift from the great dependencies which now look to us for protection and which are the natural markets for our trade? If tomorrow, if it were possible, as some people apparently desire, to reduce by the stroke of a pen the British Empire to the dimensions of the United Kingdom, half at least of our population would be starved." Okay. How many of you understood that perfectly and you're like, yes, I've got it? Okay, maybe a couple. You're like, yeah, I kind of get what's going on here. That's okay, because again, I said that some of this language is going to be strange. It's going to be peculiar, but we work through it. Okay, so those of you that are feeling pretty confident in this document, what do you get out of it? Like, yeah?
Basically what I was saying is like the British Empire extends further than the islands that it's on.
Yes.
So like if they were to be cut off from all of that, then they'd pretty much all die.
Yeah. Okay. You're spot on. Our empire is farther than the island that we know. We cut ourselves off. People are going to die. So would you say Joseph Chamberlain is an individual that says imperialism is a good idea or a bad idea?
Good idea.
Good, right. Yeah. And you can decide that, right? I mean, his occupation might have given you a little bit of a clue already. But he says, like, we've already suffered because of trade. This line is key. He's saying these islands, right, these the territories that we control, our colonies, they depend on us for one. Go to us for protection, and then they are a natural market for us. Like we have colonies, so we can sell our goods there. Britain's an island. The UK is an island nation. It's pretty small. It's the small island up here. He's like, these colonies help us sell goods. They look to us for protection. We need them. They depend on us. We are dependent on them. This line, right? And so one thing that I would recommend doing, as like whenever I look at a DBQ and I go through, with the documents, you can highlight on them, you can mark on them. It's worth your time to say, like, okay, this document here, it's pro-imperialism. Pro-imperialism. You can abbreviate, you can mark whatever you want. These are yours, so the notes need to make sense to you. He says imperialism is a good idea, and when we think about why, he's in it for trade, right? The economic opportunity. If you took away all of our colonies and forced us to live off of just what's in the islands, like within the UK, we would starve. Right? People would die. We need the colonies because they provide economic opportunity. They provide us resources that help the people of Great Britain thrive. Makes sense? Yeah. Okay. So again, some of these documents are more approachable. Some of them a little bit less so. It's going to be okay. That's why you're working in teams. Kind of divide up here. We'll move forward together. So, you four. Gillen, maybe I'll get those three fellows back there. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to hop out of those three. You four and you four. So put your desks in little pods so I can see sort of where we're at. And I'm going to assign you to bring your document packet, a writing utensil, and that analysis page. Give you, yeah, just number 7 because that's a little strange. 8 and 9.
Did you already do this?
Or rosemary.
The Genesis of
Day. So one at a time. 1900.
Oh, it's because as it's first
Although
Yeah.
11, 12, 10.
So, can I just for a second pause what you're saying for a second and listen? Okay. So, you might run into words you don't know. Right? I know, I think you guys have document 5. One of the words in your document is philanthropy. Right? You might not know what philanthropy means. That's okay. If you don't know, ask somebody in your group. If they don't know, you can ask me, or you can look it up. Right? That's okay. Use the resources you have, right, to look up the word philanthropy. But you as a group kind of read through the document and do what we did up here. What are some of the key pieces? What information does this give me about why Europeans took colonies and how they felt about taking colonies?
Okay.
Give it a try. We'll see what happens. You got questions?
He's pro-imperialist.
And that's all.
He leaves
Blatant attitude.
competition
Although in a sense, capitalism is international, it's not all built Right, so in a sense, capitalism is
It's like Germanic language, that's very nice.
like what they want.
That's like getting
So for him, like, it's also power or like world power?
So like, this is a good idea.
But then like in like the last one, it'd be what his attitude towards it is gonna be. Right, he's like this is any country that does not wish to become less important. So it was almost like at the same time where he's like a competition will be a good thing in the future. Right now, it's custom to find in exaggerated forms of nationalism its most potent allies. Say like capitalism and nationalism. So nationalism, patriotism on steroids. That's kind of an important piece of understanding. Like, there's a lot of familiar with that.
Social Darwinism.
But the president is accustomed to find in exaggerated forms of nationalism its most potent asset. So in the future, he's saying capitalism will be important, but in the present, it is an exaggerated form of nationalism.
The source is resolution of the German Social Democrats.
It is custom find in exaggerated reality
Yeah, but doing that is your that's fine. Then philanthropy at 5%. Better. What do you think of making that at 5%?
Okay, so he's definitely William Clark.
It's a weird one.
This is the balance of power and sort of, I think like the first part of it, he's like talking about the super but then the second part is talking about what's good, and then if you do this, if you want to obtain that balance of power. Yeah, like if you want. Then everybody needs to keep getting more land and more land. Yep, so we said it's kind of like why?
It's more of a necessity. This is what you want. You have to great.
Source, Louis Bernard, French colonial officer, memoir, Paris, 1936. I found in Algiers before the First World War, which had been victorious and conquered France, which allowed me to get in the mediator on the other side of the water.
You all are doing a nice job right, with the documents you were given. We're running a little bit low on time, and that's fine. We're fine to take days on this. You're doing well. We're dividing the documents and pulling out the right pieces. Because that's what you're supposed to take away here. Is this document something that is, we would say imperialism is a good idea or a bad idea? And then the why. Because if you were writing an essay about how people, like the Europeans, felt about imperialism and why they took colonies, you guys know in organizing a good essay, you need to break it into pieces where you say the Europeans took colonies for economic reasons. How many of you guys would say, like, you had a document that like, talked about the economics of taking the colonies? Like, you can make money off of this stuff, or it's good for resources. You put your hand up if you think you had a document like that. Yes, you did. Yes, right, you did too. Because when you're, this is what we're going to be kind of working on tomorrow. We'll start class tomorrow by going through these documents, so you don't have to do any more tonight, unless your heart wants to, and you're like, I love documents. Yes, I'm going to. That's how I spend my nights, but that's okay if you don't. You're going to come tomorrow. We're going to go through these documents, kind of share out what information did you get from the documents, pro or anti-imperialism, and talk about how you would arrange this into an essay. Because on a DBQ, right, you write the essay and you cite these documents within it. If you're going to make the claim Europeans took colonies for economic purposes, say, man, check out, number 5, or like Cecil Rhodes said in document 5. You can make money off of helping people. Right? It's a pretty good thing.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah. Great. So, kind of put a pin in where you are for now. Make sure you have these things with you tomorrow. Yes.
Okay, so I would like to thank all of you for coming this afternoon, both to the class period and to sort of this debrief. Thank you for your time, the input you're about to provide, and for helping us all sort of learn and grow. So during the observation, we had sort of the focus question area and then a large number of look-fors. And you took some notes about those things and things. As we go through this, our protocol for the Learning Lab is that we're going to go through 4 different rounds of sort of information sharing. So we're going to start round 1. We'll be asking, what did you see? So just comments about what you saw during the observation. Round 2 will be focused more on what was the impact on student learning. Round 3 will be a chance to ask some reflective questions and for Carrie as the teacher or the host to provide some feedback as she desires. Or to say, not at this time. And then round 4 will be a time for you to think and then share about what some next steps might be based on the observation and the experience with the Learning Lab. So, to start off, for this first round, we're gonna just whip around sort of in a circle, give everybody a chance. At any point, you're welcome to pass. And then if you find something else, pop back in. Once everybody passes, then we'll be done. But here, it's about what you observed. So a lot of I saw or I heard, actually what you observed during the observation portion of the Learning Lab. And Carrie and I will just listen and take it all in. Okay, would you like to get us started, Catherine?
Sure. I noticed that the teacher was consistently asking students to recall information that they had learned previously.
I noticed that before the bell sounded, students came in and sat down instead of wandering around the room.
I saw students getting the opportunity to engage with more than one fellow student.
I saw notes prepared for the students who needed the accommodation.
I also saw that most students were able to pull keywords from the question as you were prompting, but they also had a lot of background knowledge that just helped aid them as they got started. Except for maybe one particular group that clearly didn't have as much, but that didn't surprise me.
I noticed that students during the initial brainstorming session were already so engaged that they were starting to have conversations with other people about the topic in groups near them.
I saw a student coming late and heard the teacher greet the student with a nickname that made other students snicker.
I saw the teacher moving around the classroom when there were small groups to help them break down any questions that they had.
I saw Carrie after she released the students. Can I use your name?
I think so.
Okay. Just no student names, right?
I'm a legal adult.
I saw Carrie, I was gonna say, I think you're an adult. So, engage deliberately with a student that needed some more guidance.
I saw a group discussion that a lot of different kids were involved in the group discussion.
I saw students interested in a topic that they are continuing to question still today, even though it was part of history. I saw students see its relevance in today's society.
I saw Carrie regularly connect the work being done to work that had happened, the skill set to work that had happened, and understanding the role of this project in terms of how it would impact them next year in the schedule change.
I heard Carrie asking students or encouraging students to use any resources that they had available to them, whether it's technology or their notes or the people around them.
I saw some students making lists to organize their thinking, and I saw other students making flow charts to organize their thinking and show their thinking.
I saw many kids kind of asking one another how they were writing down the information. And to piggyback off that, I also saw, I mean, it was a good prompt for those students, like back there, you can use your notes, and then they started pulling things out.
I saw students with a wide range of ability be able to stay on track with a very difficult assignment.
I heard Carrie use humor multiple times to refocus the class.
I heard examples used by Carrie, whether they were cartoons or stories and connections with siblings, or like the 3 Gs, to help remind them or make a connection to their own life or to things they've already talked about in the classroom.
I saw Carrie be willing to say, I don't know, and we should look that up.
I like that, that's what I was, took mine. They had questions beyond what they were looking at, which.
And it is a Christian nation.
It is, okay.
And that's like a
You should-
really big deal in the history of it.
I don't know.
And the only reason is because of this stuff that I'm doing right now.
That's so good to know.
That's the only reason.
That happens to me
During this
daily.
time though?
That Ethiopia, yeah, that was good. That was good.
That happens to me
Because
daily.
he would be the one to ask a question where you'd be like,
Yep.
that's a good question.
I think he thinks I might be stupid.
No.
Yeah, I'm like, oh,
Are you kidding?
I don't know.
That's the best.
That's the,
Yeah.
being willing to do that every day is awesome.
Pass.
I heard the teacher rephrase partially complete student answers into more curricularly focused answers that tied their answer to prior or future learning.
I saw the teacher guiding students through the basics of breaking down the question, but then also breaking down the components of the documents to just help give them that base knowledge for moving forward.
And I will pass.
I saw when you broke down the groups to analyze the primary source documents, I think that was really good because I did see like RL here was kind of floating by herself for a while, and then she did join up. I did appreciate they like pulled her in over there, but I like to see those groups where I assume they come in and sit wherever they want, kind of get dispersed a little bit.
Pass.
I saw the energy in the group start to fade as they maxed out their own ideas. And then I heard Carrie say, if you and the person you're talking to are stuck, turn to someone else. And the entire room exploded with creative noise in it.
Pass.
Very good.
So to summarize some of the things that you guys saw or heard during that, a number of items had to do with the students and how the students were interacting with each other and maybe some of those classroom norms in terms of how they come in, how they treat each other, sort of pulling in students that are maybe by themselves if it looked like they needed that. Being willing to share during the group discussion, some of that work. And then a number of comments about how the teacher was interacting with the students, both when they were in small groups and getting groups sort of to continue digging in deeper by offering resources or encouraging them to use resources or checking in with each group to see where they were in the large group discussion, rephrasing some of the student answers, or providing that guidance when they first were doing something new so that they knew what to do, or the teacher using humor to refocus. And then I also, another thing that came up a few different times was the differentiation that the teacher provided, both specific written potentially ahead of time prepared differentiation for certain students and other differentiation that was provided as needed to groups based on where they were.
Yeah, you must have given him some, he was successful in the large group discussion,
Yeah.
being able to answer, which was, and JD over there, I was really impressed. He's not one that would ever guess had raised his hand so many times. I was like,
He's
yes.
super good in this, but like
He
that's
likes
fun.
it, yeah, he gets it.
So now we're going to move on to round 2. Round 2 is about the impact on student learning. So taking some of those things that we saw or heard and maybe broadening that into, I noticed, you know, this thing that the teacher did impacted the students in a certain way. And again, we'll whip around and let everybody have the opportunity to add. At any time you can pass and then jump back in. So we'll let Catherine start again.
I noticed that the teacher gave students time to brainstorm with their buddy, which allowed students to put multiple ideas and brains together to broaden their thinking.
I noticed an overall positivity to the community in the classroom. And I noticed students able to be pithily humorous with each other in the quiet, small group conversations, but then refocus on the work. And I feel like that is an outgrowth of the modeling of peppering in jokes as the teacher, but continuing to teach at the same time.
It was mentioned before, but I noticed like your ability to admit when you didn't quite know something, you didn't know everything, which seemed to help the students to look to you as someone that they can also not know the answers, but then also encourages them to advocate for themselves, find their answers instead of just focusing on you to give them all the information they need to know.
And to that end, the student that made the religious connection, that I thought that was awesome and was inferential. So I saw inferential connections early before they had even started reading the documents.
And kind of going, again, off what Gabe said, you know, the group was struggling, and you came over and you said, you're going to struggle. But you also guided them enough to where they started asking enough questions within their group. They figured it out. They had the right answer, but knowing that they were going to struggle and letting them know, hey, these aren't easy, I think is good.
I noticed this is, I think, similar maybe to what I said before, but I noticed the teachers give and admit that this assignment was difficult and that it was setting them up for next year. And I saw the students respond with ease to that, showing that there had been a culture of pushing students with expectations and students knowing that they simply rise to that.
I noticed students holding themselves to a higher standard than I think even you were holding them to, because they expected themselves to have all of the possible answers in the brainstorming. And there was a moment when you wrote down religion on the board in the first group, and one of the kids over by where I was standing went, religion! He grabbed his pen and scribbled it down and then looked across the room at the kid and was like, good answer! And like that level of, celebrating each other's learning and like wishing you'd come up with it on your own.
I noticed an idea of like wanting to clarify any like vocabulary, like terminology, so that all students could be successful and really understood like what's acquisition, like
yes.
Yeah, and then like having the students like talk through that and brainstorm what it means, and then what it means in the context of like what you're discussing. So making sure that was important, that they understood that, so they weren't stuck and they could move forward.
I noticed Carrie clarifying and rephrasing words that were tough early in the process, and then encouraging them to use their computers as well though I was pleased to see the computers not, sorry, because we talked about that. We wrote over together. As a crutch, we're like, man, do we use them too much in our room? And so that was a good conversation.
Yeah, because I noticed, you gave them specific and you were highlighting things, and then they started jotting down, and some kids were using the back, some of them were using the boxes, but some were just, they liked being right on the document and highlighting, and I thought it was nice that they could do, you never told them specific, I think, where to put their notes, and some of them were really good at just putting them right on the documents, so whatever works best for them, they chose that route, so. Yeah, I like the fact that there was a lot of paper and pencils and highlighters, and not computers.
Because it's hard to take notes on preview.
It is.
For a lot of kids.
Although, they did utilize it when they needed to on like a vocab term or something, which then it went right back in there. So I did appreciate that.
Pass.
I noticed that you were developing a culture of learning that extended beyond the walls of the classroom for the kids for whom this is their thing. You referred to yourself as somebody who likes to look at documents at night, and if you're a history person, this is your thing. And lots of the kids were like, no, but some of them looked at you like, I want to be that. And like just seeing, I noticed students aspiring to be more than they are.
I guess something I really appreciated that I noticed is that I noticed that you broke down and discussed like the asterisk and what that meant, instead of just kind of glazing over and expecting students to know what that means and what that was used for in terms of that document. That you took the time to break down the different pieces within the document, so that once again students could be successful moving forward.
I'll pass as well.
I noticed like when you were modeling, and this kind of goes back to the kids that are really into documents, like your enthusiasm for getting the kids engaged. I think is document number 6, which was a very interesting document anyway. But just capturing that moment in that time, like, this is really, this is something, it was the magic and the booze and whatever that the kids could, it just sparked an interest. Like the modeling of that first one, I think, was really instrumental in going through the other documents in the group.
Generally gets them.
Yeah.
I think just to go off of that, I noticed that the teacher was constantly modeling, whether it was behavior or how to interact with the documents and how to interact with their notes, that students seem to soak up and absorb, and showed that I think the teacher is seen not just as an instructor, but as a role model.
I think I'm just going to pass.
I noticed that it seemed like Carrie was building like individual or like 2 people or small group and then the whole group, and then taking it back to small groups. That I feel like it was growing. So as discussions were growing and like their schema and like everything like was building, and then they were able to then small group and work and use that information that they gave as a whole group by the very end.
I've got one more. Now that we've gone around again, I saw a group that had a myriad of learners in it, and one of those kids, kind of rise to the occasion and say, okay, well, so is this for or against, imperialism? And it really prompted the other kids to think about what they had just said and what have you. It showed that leadership quality kind of naturally rising out of the group.
I did notice too, a couple different groups there were definitely some leaders, which is great. Sometimes those other learners, I feel like there's a way to get them also involved instead of just watching. I did notice a couple groups, but for the most part, everyone was engaged.
I noticed that before students were ever asked to volunteer information in front of the large group, they had time to work alone or with others. So everybody had something to offer by the time there was an expectation of offering something to them.
I guess the last thing that I had was like something that I noticed that you didn't just ask them to break down the question or ask them to do something. You would take the time to explain why it was important to do this or what the purpose was for their activity or what they're being asked to do, so that it could be a little bit more meaningful to them.
Good thing.
Yes.
So, let's see, a little summary of some of the things that we noticed and the impact on learning. There seems to be a lot talking about the impact of sort of that small group, large group, and that interplay, students being able to maybe think for themselves or in a small group, and then that growing, and then the large group discussion, and how that would fed back into them being able to do more on their own later. Focus on sort of the teacher admitting that things can be hard or difficult, and the impact that that had on student learning, whether that was, well, I don't know the answer to that either, or whether that was this is going to be a difficult activity, but here's why we're doing it and where we're going to build to after this. And then the enthusiasm, playing teachers' enthusiasm and modeling playing an important role as well, and sort of building some of that learning, and especially building for learning to happen beyond the classroom walls and once they leave the class period. Round 3, we'll move on to. Round 3 is reflective questions and response from the host. I think I've seen this round done a couple of different ways. One is sort of collect all the questions, and then the host responds sort of to everything at once. I've also seen it done more of a, question and you get the response right away. Do you have a preference between those two formats?
That's probably my preference, if that's okay.
Yes, to just sort of
stay organized, yeah.
Yep. And these reflective questions should be more sort of you digging into sort of why or how she maybe did stuff. Not really a time for suggestions or considerations as much, not a time for, well, have you thought about doing this? Because there are millions of things we could think about, and then we could be here way beyond my time limit of track meet starting. But more sort of why or how to dig into what she was thinking as she planned and created things. So we will begin round 3.
How do you feel that, since you acknowledge that it was this is a new thing and a difficult critical thinking, how do you feel that the students responded today, and how do you feel like you'll anticipate them responding in the next few days as you continue the...
So it went weirdly well. Like they were all, and it had to be because there were other people in the class and it wasn't just me. I feel like no, I was impressed with them, and I think one thing that helped a lot, I have before, like this is the first time I've gone through a document management class before they go into their groups, and I think that was a game changer, because last semester there was a lot of struggle to get things going, so it was something that I added this time around, and so I think that they responded well to that, and I think that helped them see oh, this is the thing, I know what to do now. We didn't get as far as I wanted to today. I was hoping to do some large group discussion of all of the documents before the end of the hour. It's just fine,
Should be better next year.
Yeah, exactly. Next year, this will go much smoother. But I think I was really impressed with their ability. They were really gung ho about it, and then that they got to places that I wasn't necessarily expecting. They picked up on some of these documents that are super tough. The first time I did this, just by myself went through. I was these are really, really hard. I don't know if they can do it. They were getting what they needed to out of it, and it was so. I'm looking forward. I think I'm impressed with how they responded today.
I think you even told them they could write the 2 paragraphs probably with the information they already had. I think that was key to
I love that.
Yeah, they're we got this. We didn't do it. we could fumble through it, we would be able to get a good. Sorry.
No, I'm glad you said that because I had forgotten to jot that down. I felt like that, maybe this is back to the I noticed thing, but when the teacher suggested that they could write with what they already have for knowledge, you could tell that that really built the morale, especially tackling a new thing that they hadn't done before, that they were, okay, let's do this, and I just need a little bit more and I'm good to go. I thought that was an awesome way to boost the classroom vibe.
Turning them into historians, like you know it, but now can you layer in the realities using the primary sources?
Knowing that you've added the modeling of the one document to the whole class, how do you find the balance in an activity like this between individual work time, partner work time, small group work time, large group modeling, large group follow-up? Like there's so many different dynamics that were happening in 43 minutes. How, when you designed today, how were you envision? Like, did it play out the way you envisioned it, and how did you know that that was where you wanted it to go?
Yeah, for the most part, it was again like the modeling took longer than I expected it to, just because I hadn't done it before. I was like, oh, it'll take like 2 minutes. It did not. That's fine. But like I've done enough of this, like before, like the question breakdown I know can be done pretty easily. If you give them too much time, they'll like wander into somewhere else, and like you won't be able to get them back. And it's like, and I want them to focus. Like it's an easy, or like not an easy test, but it's like very clear. Like these are the parts of the question I can do that. In brainstorming, from past experience, like 5 to 7 minutes is like a really good time for them, because like they kind of exhaust what they need to, gives them some time to collaborate without letting them wander off into left field and do something. It's like this is something I've done with juniors, with sophomores multiple times now. So those pieces, and I think, part of that is like with Mark Rhodes, he's like mentored and has taught me how to teach DBQs. And like that's where his, like out of his experience, his years of experience, like that's kind of good ballpark times. I think, yeah, I feel very comfortable with where they got today, because we'll be able to start right away tomorrow, like with, all right, let's talk about all these documents. And then from there, they'll start piecing together, like they'll craft a thesis. And their final project, they will write an intro paragraph that has a comprehensive thesis. And then they will outline an essay. So they're like, if I was writing, like this is an essay, like a paragraph topic I would have, these are 2 documents that work within that topic. And then like say, this is 1 or 2 pieces of outside info. It's like the brainstorming stuff that they have on the board already, where would they fit that in, what documents would they use to help support that. So I think that will probably take us into Wednesdays, because tomorrow's going to be a short class period with the early out.
And will that be individually doing the outline?
So I give them time to work on a thesis or like an intro, and I've had them do like kind of peer review of an intro paragraph before, just so they can make, because they notice that like you do a lot in English with that piece, and it helps them, like so they understand how to peer edit by this point, and they can do a little bit of that. So that's an individual overall thing. Sure. But I don't know, did that answer your question? Okay.
I have one that ties like directly to it. If I step in there. So in terms of compare, like how will they present the docs to the rest of the group? Like
large groups. So they'll be with the groups that they were in today. Whether it's like 5th hour got to pick, or they were just kind of like with people they were by. 6th hour, I intentionally had them count off to get them mixed up a little bit more.
So you did that knowing the class?
Nice.
Yeah.
That was great. That random was great.
Yeah, and it worked out. Like it got really good balanced groups. And
so. Sorry.
In terms of the docs, instead of having them read all 12, they're going to are they going to share out about them and maybe the key phrases or something like this?
Exactly. Yeah, so they will present it sort of like this is, like I have, so they tell us a little bit about your document, and like that's what they're taught, like this is like who it's from.
Yes.
And then they just kind of give us the bullet points, like what's the attitude toward imperialism, and like when it gets into motivations, why does it say Europeans took colonies?
Will you have them use the document camera, so like if they highlighted that shows, or it's more of a verbal?
It's been more verbal. I could do that, because I'll just like record up on the board as they tell me like to be up the board, and then I take pictures and put that on Canvas, so if they've missed something, they didn't hear it, they can go back and look.
And for
yeah,
that's good. I like that.
I like the idea that with as many documents as there was, doing it that way, I think it's not only helps the kids, but then they get to see other people's thinking as well, and I like that way you're gonna.
And I think they would, like, had I said like, okay, you're gonna do all 11 other ones, they would have been, what? They would not have done well, so.
No, one group was already planning on, they were already planning for the next set, I mean, they were ready to go.
Do you want to jump back in?
Sorry. Yeah, no, you're good. No. So as far as like student engagement, like, is the way you have kids like see themselves, they see themselves, is that a part of your way to get students engaged, or does that play into that at all?
I think it helps. So like my deal with them at the beginning of the semester is like you can sit where you want to until you prove you can't handle not having a seating chart. Some classes last 20 minutes. And like these guys have all made it to the end of the semester somehow. Like, which was kind of, again, my 5th hour class, and you saw, like 30 kids in that class, and they somehow made it through and like been really good with who they want to sit by. And even like this class, like 6th hour, they can get groupy and kind of distracted, but for the most part,
Which is why you split them up.
yeah, and then mix it up every now and then, and it's all good. So I guess, I don't know, it helps a lot. I think it's nice, but then it's not out of purposeful design. It's just because they haven't been so terrible for me that I had needed to give them a skinny chart.
Have a question you want to ask Wes?
No, I'm not, sorry, pass, we can think of it.
Pass?
You seem to imply that they don't always come directly and then sit down and quietly look at you ready to learn at the beginning of class. But
What's weird?
knowing that happened, and knowing that there was productive chaos, and their ability to go back and forth between that, how did you build that flexibility of energy in the classroom? Like, how did you help them find the lines of when it's okay to be loud and when it's not a task to be loud?
I honestly don't know how much like I personally, but like they've had a really, like they have been able to get focused really easily. It's like I have not had to have like one of those like come to Jesus moments with this class, be like, you guys are being a disaster, like you need to get it together.
Wow.
Yeah, and I
Says the middle school teachers.
Sit wherever you want.
Last semester, it was a very different story. This semester, like the mix of kids is really bright. It's really, like, last semester it was an entirely different story. Like those, I probably would not have wanted to host a learning lab last semester because they were so frustrating every single day. It's just like a weirdly good mix of kids, and I think they have allowed me to use humor. Because like I hate when it's quiet. I hate when it's just like sterile noise, and I'm on a super awkward person and I like to make jokes anyway. It's like they help me find, like, we've kind of found that line together, I think, between when you're getting too far away and when you can bring it back in. So, that's a good answer that I don't know. It's that group, like, these groups of kids have been really easy this semester. Every now and then.
So in the 6th hour, you had a student that needed modifications? Okay. How did you determine what modifications or accommodations and what were they? Because I guess I could not notice. I didn't notice, but then I saw there was like maybe some highlighting on a packet.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, that's, I've been working for like a week trying to figure out what to do because his reading level is well below everybody else. And I got his IEP a little while ago, and it says like he's one to like, he listens really well. And you guys heard like he was willing to volunteer answers and stuff, like he's good at that. And so, and I just know that he's capable of a little bit more than he thinks he is sometimes. So like, yeah, the Planky, because he gets notes if like, so if I have PowerPoints or whatever, and I give him copies of my daily notes so that he has that to refer to, so he doesn't have to try to write stuff down, he can just kind of listen and follow. So then today for this, because I had like researched, like I was like, how do I modify a DBQ for a kid that like whose reading level was so low, and there were some people that were like, well, you could modify documents this way, you can do it a little bit differently. And I just know like he does well if I like kind of reduce the task a little bit. So I went through in these documents, I found some that I knew were much more, because like some of these are really ambiguous, some of them are way more clear. Found the ones that were more clear and just kind of highlighted some of those key parts, because like you can understand these 2 sentences. The words are weird, the words are hard, but you can get the point of these. And then kind of at the beginning too, I made sure to really, like when I gave them like time to partner, buddy, whatever, do this thing, went to him and sort of made sure that he understood the task at hand. Because and I was like, look back at your notes, look back at these things like this, and gave him a little bit more of that concrete, like this is where you can go to find this information. Intentionally. That's why that was another reason that counting off was helpful, because I knew I could put him in the first group that I had him start, so that he could be in the group that had like the first 2 documents, where two of the more approachable ones.
I loved his comment about, what do you get something for Christmas?
Yeah.
The buzzer, yeah, the buzzer. Yeah, but that was like a great connection you made.
Mm-hmm. And he doesn't and that's why, sometimes more off task than others, more off topic, I'm able to bring him back in. But I was very concerned. I was just kind of I didn't know how it was going to go with him, because if he gets overwhelmed, he'll just sit and stare and he'll shut down, and I didn't want that to happen, because he's capable, he can do stuff.
Yeah, he was doing notes.
Yeah.
He was doing.
Mm-hmm. And so that was good. And so his overall task will be he'll be able to write a good paragraph. And so instead of maybe having him, I don't know, and I've done it a couple different ways for kids with very varied skill levels. Because he can write a really solid paragraph, and I think that he'd be able to tell me, how his 2 documents, fit in really nicely. And we'll see how much he gets from the whole class discussion. But having, the notes, photographed, copied, and available will be helpful to him, too. So we'll see. I might push him a little bit. See what happens.
Okay.
Good.
Sure. I think I'm good. Yeah, I'm good.
So now for round 4, it'll be sort of the next steps. So I want everybody to just take a minute or so now and think sort of with your own work, what next steps you can maybe take, or things you're thinking about doing based on the observation and the experience here today. So there should be some space maybe in your note-taking tool or somewhere, just jotting down a next step, a takeaway, new learning, something that'll impact you within your classroom. And then we will be sharing things. I should warn you of that before you firm it up. Once you have time to jot those down, we will ask for you to share those, or at least some of it with me. That a few of us need to get out of here quicker than others. Are you working a field event?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm filling in, so I think.
As soon as you can get there. Okay. So maybe have Wesley and Catherine share, because you're the ones I know have to leave, and then if you need to head out, that's fine.
I think one thing that I would like to do a better job of, I really liked how they spent the time looking at the question with their partner or with the group, and just breaking that question down, vocabulary, so they really have an understanding what they were looking for. Sometimes I think I throw a question at them and give them some documents, and I feel like
You assume.
yeah, and we've jumped right into writing essays, versus maybe I need to step back and just start with the outline and making sure that the kids are seeing every little piece, because I assume sometimes they know more, just the acquisition. I would have never guessed that a sophomore maybe didn't know that word.
Mm-hmm.
But there were some that, that was, they didn't think of it. So I liked how you really, you broke it down to their level, and I think it just gives them more opportunities for success. I just really, the whole group to small group to whole group to small group, I like that. sometimes I get focused on kids are in pairs, or maybe a group of 3. And we don't bring it back as easily as you did in the classroom, where it just, I mean, I like the atmosphere, I like the setup in here.
Can we have these desks?
Yeah, I really love these desks, but that's what that's something I think I'm gonna work on.
Thank you.
My goal is to work more collaboratively with the history department to see how I can better
Thesis writing.
support their work in English class. And I'm obviously curious to see, especially with the sophomores, how the outlining will go as they've written papers in 10th grade English already this year. But I'm just excited about collaborating and understanding a little bit more about document-based questions, and then seeing how I can do the same thing in the English department, so there can be some cross-curricular work done with that, so that the students are making connections, which they already are making a lot of connections across, but I think this holds some strong potential.
I want to be more intentional about giving my small people think time or talk time between asking a high-level question and taking the first answer. Because I think sometimes my high flyers make the jump, and great, they can tell the rest of the class, but I think there's real value in everybody having the time to wrestle with it. For the high flyers, the low flyers, and the in-betweeners too.
Just thinking about goals for myself, like with our social studies standards and expectations, some of the new units that we've adopted, just thinking about how we could start doing some of this work. I mean, just like looking at primary sources and breaking them down and making observations, and there might be a lot of pictures, but like
artist intent though. I mean, yeah.
But also, like we're doing a long ago unit and looking at Pioneer Life right now, and just breaking down pictures and asking questions, and how we could set everyone else up for success.
We appreciate that.
Let's see what we can do.
With the DBQs that they'll do next year, include pictures as part of the document set. So like that's a huge thing. Like, and sometimes
Well, the maps that were in there.
Mhm.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
The maps in there, like thinking about the work that, I mean, we do maps occasionally, but like there's more work that we could be doing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
That's great. Based on that, I mean, I feel like, so the SHEG program has those original docs, and I never put those in front of the kids, but like, I'm going to now, or at least I'm gonna go through them and put chunks like that in front, because they bring back the Lexile for, I feel like, a middle school level in that program, which is great, but some of my kids need a challenge, and so I wanna use those more. That would be a goal I have for next year. And deepening the driving questions, you know, and breaking it down and parsing it out, motivation versus analysis versus acquisition. Those were all quality stuff.
It's a tough question.
Right.
Like, so we're gonna try to see how it goes. To go past just like what does the document say, like, you know, the pro-Oriental imperialism and kind of what does it give you, to try to figure out why that person would think that way.
So that's a question I didn't ask.
Yeah.
Like, what's like your end game? Like for them to express an original thought in their conclusion.
Yeah.
That's at the 7th grade level. It's such a hard thing to do, because they're just like, oh, here's the evidence, and that's what I feel too. And it's like, more.
Yeah. So that'll be, and that's the component that's been the most difficult, right? Isn't the trying to understand, like, and like, I mean, we use that idea of like the bias, right? Like, why would this person write this thing, right? You can look at like Cecil Rhodes, where he is, you know, there's a country of Rhodesia that is named after, like, he loves, like, he's all about imperialism. Like, why, right? Like, no, like, I'm trying to understand a little bit more about him and take it to that next, like, that's what we will move it from okay into like, holy cow, they're doing something sweet.
And it's almost its own separate entities, finding that like that source is important. If they don't know, like somewhere, oh, he's French, they were going just off what that little piece, but going beyond, all right, he's French, but it doesn't mean he necessarily agrees.
Right.
So that's another piece that's, go ahead.
Another little goal, you really help them delimit the question, like put no, we're not talking about the African perspective on this. And I think sometimes with my smallies, I let them spin in their mind way past the point of productivity for a 30-minute class period, where, well, that's very nice. All of those things are, okay. Yeah, but you were just like, yeah, no, not that. That's great, and we should do that, but that's not this.
Yeah, but the
So
realities
how do
are,
we see that?
with DBQs is they're still limiting, like, right? Until you release them into the wild to find some of those alternative viewpoints and sources, and that's one thing I found in that one child, like, you know, they went out and pulled in some stuff that was like, whoa, we didn't read those. And then, was it reliable? Can we trust it? You know.
But it was really, it's helpful for them to see, like, there's a time and a place for that.
Sure.
And there's a time and a place for not that. Right?
Well, like that's right. It's like, I mean, should we care like how the Africans felt about colonization? Of course we should. That's way more important than the stupid Europeans. Like,
But what was document versus oral tradition, right?
Yeah.
You know,
like what's
that's the crux.
What is the question asked? Like, what are you going? Like, if this was a test, right? Like, what are you getting scored on? It's can you answer this question?
Right.
Not this is what the question should be. So I've had people go that route before, and I'm like, I love it. It's beautiful, but it's not. Sorry, you're not answering the question, and like that, and then they get mad because they don't get good scores.
Well, thank you, Carrie, for hosting and
Thanks.
for participating and sharing your thoughts and your experiences. And hopefully then as some of these new pieces are put in place, then maybe you can host next year and, you know, build some of that back and forth to really
It's neat seeing
grow.
high school. I mean, I've
See how it
never
grows.
been in a high school
Yeah,
class.
they were very excited to see you guys.